Thank you everyone for joining us today for our Modern Payroll for Modern Staffing, a fireside chat with Peoplelink and Greenshades. Our speakers today are Christophe Just, the CEO of Peoplelink, Vince Murdica, the CEO of Greenshades, and Gretchen Kiefner, our SVP of Global Enterprise Sales here at Bullhorn.
Perfect. Thank you, Jocelyn, and Christophe and Vince. Thank you so much in advance for a great conversation today. We'll dig right in, and I thought we would start, Christophe, with you sharing a bit about the catalyst for change. You know, what pain or bottlenecks were you experiencing on your previous solution that was built-in payroll solution to the platform you were using? You know, what made you think this isn't going to work for our business for the future?
Sure. Well, first of all, many thanks for having the ability to share the experience and the journey that we went through. If I wanted to depict a little bit the picture is we were on a very outdated infrastructure. We are having the pleasure to operate with 5 different vertical divisions, I would say with an array from commercial, industrial, high volume, and also professional. And we were on that infrastructure, which was highly fragmented. So 5 different instances of a legacy system, including the ATS and the back office. And we came to the conclusion that if we want to scale, if we want to cross-pollinate, cross-sell across the different verticals, whether we are speaking about deeper penetration with clients or facilitating as well the exchange of candidates and associates, that infrastructure was coming to an end. So we went on that journey around, we are not a staffing company, we are not a software company, we are a staffing company. So let's find on the market what is out there available to get us toward that digital transformation and journey and scalability we were all after.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think that's an easy follow-up for you, Vince. I think Christophe just mentioned some of these things, but what does the Bullhorn integration with Greenshades do strategically for staffing firms like Peoplelink, based on what Christophe just said?
Yeah, thanks, Gretchen. And Christophe, thanks for joining. Appreciate y'all letting us tell the story as well. So thank you for that. A lot like Christophe was sharing, the integration that we've built really gives staffing firms a full stack connected front and back office experience that it's purpose built for the staffing industry. And because both Bullhorn and Greenshades were so hyper focused on what staffing industry customers needs, and we brought together these sort of best in class components that solve problems, as Christophe was mentioning. Today we have what we think meets those needs. Maybe what's more important is actually what's going to happen tomorrow, and the alignment and the fact that we are so committed to the industry that as those technology changes evolve over time, that we will keep up, we will innovate, we will respond with pace to ensure that the integration creates this seamless experience, front and back end, for the specific needs of the staffing industry, as opposed to maybe other solutions that were built for other needs that were sort of square peg round hole into a staffing environment, that then you see sort of the divergence between the needs and the actual operation of the business. And so I'm really excited about our ability to talk about the success that we've had today, but I think over the coming years is when the value proposition is actually going to grow.
Right on. That sounds great. And Christophe, what do you think of that? Is that right? I saw you shaking your head, nodding your head. And then can you provide some specific examples of where you've really seen hard time savings or manual effort reduced?
So if the question will be limited to were you able to reduce your cost to serve your operations, or were you able to eliminate some headcounts, I would not go down that path. I would more specifically speak about the compliance, the time to serve our clients, our associates, and this is where truly that made a difference on that journey, on that transformation for sure. Obviously, the compliance bit, I'm sure that we're going to have some time to develop a little bit that I would say chapter in a few minutes, but it's really more around the pay cycle. The pay cycle has been significantly reduced. The manual interventions that the team was dealing with in the past has been significantly as well reduced. And everybody knows manual touch points are prone to mistakes and errors or reduce. We were able to eliminate a very, very significant chunk of that. That was absolutely paramount as well in the sickness of the journey that we were truly trying to achieve.
Thank you very much. You mentioned compliance. I think
Yep.
now is a good time to get into that chapter. And I'd love to hear from you, Vince. I know that Greenshades has done a lot of work to make this complexity somehow easier for staffing firms. What does Greenshades compliance engine really do? How does it work?
Yeah, it's you have to go back go back a little bit in the history of the business, but Greenshades compliance actually is the anchor in our DNA. That's actually where we started in the tax compliance business. It's still actually the largest share of our customer base. We have about 4,000 customers today, relying on Greenshades for tax compliance and your informs components, and that's still the dominant size of our deployment from a customer base perspective. And maybe more interesting and relevant for this discussion, almost 1,000 of those are in the staffing industry. And so the relevance of compliance is, we all know, if you're on this webinar listening to this, compliance and staffing is incredibly complex. It is very unique, and you need some of these sort of purpose-built things. And because of this cohort that we ended up over time with this emphasis and this DNA on compliance with a quarter of our customers in the staffing industry, that's where we started. And then we began to, with that as our anchor, with that as our foundation, build the extra solutions around that, including our payroll solution, and some of our other products and software that allows us to then expand with a compliance basis that gives sort of that peace of mind for companies like Christoph and our other customers, knowing that, hey, if you're leveraging a back office solution from Greenshades, we didn't sort of start with the easy stuff and move towards really hard problems like staffing. We started in the opposite way. We solved these really hard compliance problems. We've then built successful software solutions around them, and now we're bringing them out to market, as we've been doing for the last few years. And for us, that's really kind of what we wake up every day with, and that's not going to change. We say it with a smile. We talk about how we do payroll and compliance for the industries that have really hard problems that are typically underserved by other providers. That's where we really shine.
Excellent. You're right. That peace of mind is invaluable. It's huge. Christoph, can you provide a specific example of where Greenshades has helped Peoplelink manage this complex compliance?
Well, Vince already, I would say, mentioned a few things. What I can relate upon is our amplify with an example is around definitely the payroll tax compliance at the county level. So we were having challenges as well, especially with a lot of manual workarounds in the past ecosystem. That did facilitate a lot of the work, for sure, no debate. So that's one trivial example, which might sound very trivial, but it was not trivial.
No. I think everybody listening to this call knows it is not. It is not. Christoph, I'd like to stay with you for a moment because I know a lot of staffing firms, when they recognize some of the problems that you have and they see an opportunity for transformation and what it can do for their business, and they see a solution like Greenshades that can solve some of these problems, they're ready to take a step forward, but then fear creeps in because it can be overwhelming. Not only the task of the transformation itself, or tasks, I should say, but evaluating who the right partners are in the first place. So I was hoping you could share a little bit more about what that looked like for you.
Well, it's always a gamble, as you know, Gretchen, as you know, Vince, on the client side, or at least on the prospect side. So we went through the journey around that infrastructure is outdated, as I mentioned earlier. It's not helping us to scale the model. It's not facilitating the cross-selling and the cross-pollination across the different businesses. So we made the conscious decision to go with one single instance covering all our 5 and different businesses. And so we went through the complexity, obviously, to select a partner around the ATS, Bullhorn, and came the complexity around designing processes with also maintaining the DNA, which is very, very specific for those specific business units and verticals. So that in itself took us probably around 1.5 to 2 years to really nail down those processes, change everything that we wanted without customizing. And I want to insist upon that pretty heavily. Temptation is there very quickly to customize things. So we were really having at the core around, no customization. It has to come down to configuration, to the detriment potentially as well, to change some of the practices we were having in the past. So we went through all of that, obviously, in a very thorough manner. We went through the normal cycle around A. When you're done with your core design, you move towards the build. Subsequently, you move towards the, I would say, unit test, the assembly test, the UAT, and then you press the button. And as I shared with you a few times, we went through that, what I call that 3 moment of crisis in a project, which is, again, everybody has to be prepared. Even if you believe that you're highly prepared, there is always something that's going to go a little bit sideways. And sorry for being a bit long in the answer, but this is truly where you can see whether you have been selecting a vendor or if you have been selecting a partner. So we went through those crises. So the first one was obviously, A, are we going to be able to pay our associates on times? So that got a little bit edgy for a couple of weeks. I was losing sleep, and my team was losing a lot of their sleep as well. And that's when we also truly saw the partner stepping in, and Greenshade clearly was there. And again, that might sound trivial, and again, as a bit of an anecdote, but for me, as much as you want to go and be very thorough around the features you are after, when you want to select a different set of I would say vendors and rebuilding your ecosystem, there is always that gambling side around, am I picking up the right partner? And am I going to have that partner capable to step up when things are going to be a bit tough? And we had that.
Christophe, thank you so much. That was really helpful insight and detail. How did your organization rally around this? Because to be successful in any transformation, right, there has to be a universal belief that the direction you're moving is the right one. From a leadership perspective, how did you do that?
Well, it was a lot of convincing. So obviously we went through a lot of, I would say, demos, testing, and so on and so forth. So nothing new in that space. What I perfectly remember as well is when you have some of your teams, especially around the back office, who have been using the same systems for nearly 10 years, this is where you're facing the highest degree of resistance. So it's about convincing, yes, for sure. But for me, the way that it went through, and I don't know if that those individuals are in attendance today, maybe not, and I can ensure that there's probably a smile on their face for sure, if they are there, is they became very quickly, when we were live, they became the main, I would say, actor for that change and driving that change. So in other words, in a simple term, they were so anchored around the legacy system, and after those changes, after using it, after seeing the partnership developing, they were the one becoming the main, I would say, sponsor of those new systems. And this is when you start to realize that you're winning. You're winning because you drive the change with individuals that, as I said, historically were comfortable with the complexity and the manual intervention. Change is always, I would say, a source of stress and anxiety. They walk the walk pretty well by jumping in the pool. And it was about, hey, we have you back. We have you back when you jump in the pool.
I think you had mentioned to me in a conversation before this that change management as a muscle was actually an unexpected benefit of going through this exercise. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. Our payroll manager is probably one of the main sponsor of the feature that Greenshades offers today. Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you. And what advice would you give to staffing firms who are contemplating this today? You know, when is the right time, and what is the first step that they should take?
Well, I think that in order to crystallize or trigger a decision around a need for change is where you are on your journey as a staffing company. So if you believe that today you have been exhausting your legacy system, and the only way for you to continue to scale, grow, and the only answer you get is either through customization or add-ons in terms of additional resources on the back end or the front end. So that is, for me, the moment where that would crystallize a decision to contemplate and seek potentially an upgrade in terms of ecosystem. offer on the market is pretty wide, it's pretty large. And the effort that we tried to do was, given our size, we are a mid-sized player. So we are flying around the 300 million mark. So we are declaring ourselves as a mid-sized player with a bit of complexity with those 5 different verticals, with different dynamics, because they respond to different clients and different expectations as well in there. So again, my simple answer to that is, did you exhaust all your options with your legacy system? Are you still in catch-up mode against the market when it comes down to automation, digitization, even without even speaking about AI, which is another chapter of that in itself. But that would be the moment that would crystallize the requirement for you to contemplate a change in your ecosystem.
Good. Thank you. Vince, I'm actually curious to hear from you on this too. I mean, I think Peoplelink is a very good example of a customer who did most things right to end up, very successful with the solution that they chose. What are some of the biggest mistakes or missteps that you see firms take or accidentally do when they're in transformation mode, or especially implementing a new payroll system?
Yeah, I think looking from a success perspective, what Christoph and team did is a thorough investigation of sort of the gap of their tech stack and what they needed versus what they were getting. How broad and how deep is that? And then evaluating not just what they needed today, but trying to project what are they going to need. Christoph mentioned earlier in some of their tech stack, they've been on platforms for up to 10 years. I was speaking to another staffing firm earlier this morning. They'd been on their tech stack for 20 years. And trying to project out, what does it look like 20 years from now? What decisions am I making now that may be incremental in delta, but 5, 10, 20 years from now could be massive, to minimize that change management and that impact that really could set you behind the 8 ball instead of sort of staying in front of. And I think that's where Christoph's team was really aggressive. They were really deep and thorough in their investigation. I think they ultimately, doubled down on selecting a tech stack that is dedicated to the industry, aware of the opportunity and the desire to continue to innovate, transparent and committed. As Christoph mentioned, we don't see ourselves as a vendor. We see ourselves as a partner, win this together to go grow together. And I think those seem intricate and small today, but 10 years from now, those are going to be massive. And I think diagnosing that in your evaluation process is going to be one of the most critical decisions that you make. What's the decision 10 years from now that you wish you made today? And if you ask yourself that question, I think it'll enlighten you on some of the things that you need to make, whether it's implementation decisions, vendor choices, bleeding edge technology decisions, those kinds of things. I think that can be really enlightening and inspiring. And it also helps with the change management, because now everybody's focused on the same ultimate end goal, and the small little bumps along the road look a lot smaller because you can see a really great thing out of you.
Great. Thank you, Vince. And I love that you talked about the future. The perfect segue into my next question for you is, what should we expect to see from Greenshades? How will you continue to look 10 years out, even 5 years out, and continue to evolve your strategy?
Yeah. Well, we talked about focus. I think that's probably the most critical piece. Is there a divergence of direction? And we are fully committed and extremely focused, as I mentioned, in the staffing industry. So that's good news. That means we're not going to take our eye off the ball, and we shouldn't see this divergence 10 years from now. Our second piece that I think is really important is we own all of our own technology. And when you put those two things together, in that we're not dependent on anybody else, our strategy, and maybe more importantly, our ability to execute on it, is we want to build, in conjunction with our partners with Bullhorn, the most complete full stack workforce management suite for the staffing industry in the world. And as Christoph mentioned, AI, I was just spending the last couple of days at HR Tech in Las Vegas. AI is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Of course, we're all talking about it. The pace of innovation is going to be so fast over the next few years. And I think that the two critical things that are going to set people apart is, what are you focused on, and can you execute into that vision? And I think that us, and collectively us with Bullhorn, are absolutely laser focused on that. What does it have for us 5 or 10 years from now? I don't know. If anybody has that answer, please let me know. Love to know, so we can go build towards it. But what I do know is that it will end up being that complete full stack suite that integrates the data sets, that integrates the entire user experience, that drives down costs, that increases all the efficiencies, that ultimately improves the outcomes and the impact for people like Christoph, so that 10 years from now, he doesn't have to make another big, full stack, massive workforce change management platform change. That's massively disruptive to a business. And I don't think that that should happen in the staffing industry again.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know Bullhorn is fully aligned with and excited by that vision as well. Christoph, would also love to hear your thoughts on the future. You've already described to us how the solution you've implemented is going to continue to enable that scale and growth. And to Vince's point, for 5, 10 years beyond, so you don't have to make this big change again. How do you see Bullhorn and Greenshades and what they've built already and will evolve impacting the industry now and in the future?
It is a very interesting one. So as everybody picked up, I'm French, and I'd like to start with that little, I would say, digression there. On the French market and European market in general, the ability for a competitor in the staffing industry to access data, market intelligence is very, very easy. So there is a very strong set of regulation, especially around the staffing, I would say, associations, where they share a lot of data insights. Here in the US, for everyone, I would say, being a practitioner in the staffing industry, which is the largest in the world, 180 billion, it is a real hard way to really find market intelligence that you can rely upon in a dynamic fashion. So in other words, you have to wait for the surveys, which are coming out of the SIA twice a year, as an example. And we were super happy to see that SIA and Bullhorn implemented that index a couple of years ago now, which starts to give a better sense in terms of dynamic, at least on a weekly basis. So sorry for being a bit long, but what I would love to think is how can we piggyback, assuming that Greenshades is on that nice development journey and deeper penetration within the staffing industry in the US as well. So how can we leverage as well some better data analysis insights, not around the market and the dynamic, but all the way down to the evolution of the wages as well, by clusters of positions, by geographies, just to name a few. So that will be my one of my dream.
Thank you. Vince, any response to that?
Yeah, I love it. Christoph shared that with us on a lunch not too long ago, I think. Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in this industry for ongoing innovation to improve the outcomes. And we hope to continue to lead the way. We certainly intend to lead the way. And as Christoph mentioned, with about 1,000 staffing customers under our belt, tremendous amount of data, the new age technologies that we're implementing, our full intent is to continue to sort of raise that bar and raise the expectations. We got a little ways to go, but I'm really excited about the future. I know there's been some headwinds in the staffing industry, but the future is bright. Innovation is fast, and there's nothing more excites me than what's coming next. So looking forward to it.
Agreed. I know Bullhorn is very excited about continuing to look at what we can do with the data also. And so looking forward to partnering with you on that, Vince, and coming to you, Christoph, for feedback. That would be excellent. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you both so much again. And we actually have about 5 minutes left here. If anybody on the webinar has questions. Just saw one question come through. Perfect. This is actually for Vince. Great question here. Is there an optimal size company for Greenshades to be working with?
Yeah, thanks, Molly. I assume you mean a staffing firm. We operate squarely in sort of what we call the mid-market. We do operate up into the tens of thousands of employees space. Our largest customer has 200,000 employees. And so there are certain instances depending on complexities, but we're squarely mid-market to sort of smaller enterprise is what we would say. We have many customers that are smaller in terms of their employee size down into the hundreds. And if you have some interest, we can certainly talk to you about that. We certainly don't dabble and we don't specialize into the small SMB. The more specific is the industry that you're in. If you're in staffing, if you're in light industrial, and you're in those industries where payroll and compliance is hard, that's what we've built our software and our stack for, and that's what we've emphasized. So it's not so much the size as it is the vertical. If that makes any sense.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And Christoph, there's also somebody interested in knowing how many employees you are processing.
I see the question. Thanks for the question, Alison. I'm not going to give you a very exact number. So let me give you a range. We are processing on a weekly basis, roughly just shy of about 5,000 employees.
Just want to say thank you so much, Christoph and Vince, again for a great conversation, and we'll look forward to following up with everybody who attended here.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Christoph. Good
See you
to see you.
soon.
Thank you, Gretchen.
See you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Share.
Bye.